Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share with you guys my favorite makeup brushes, but before we get into it, this is not going to be a very technical, you know, expert makeup tips kind of video. I'm no makeup artist. This is just me telling you my favorite makeup brushes. I'm a very minimalistic kind of makeup person. I love a no makeup look. I love a natural makeup. I love using brushes for whatever I like. I don't really use them for what they say they're supposed to be used for, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to share with you guys the makeup brushes that I use every day that I love. So to begin with, when I'm applying my base, I don't use a brush. I never have. I just don't really like that application. I love using my hands, my fingers. I think it makes for a very natural looking base, or a beauty sponge, beauty blender, whatever it is you have. This one's by Real Techniques. I love it. I do prefer the beauty blender, but this one's more affordable. It's about half the price, I think. But yeah, that's what I use for my base. Okay, so when I go in with my bronzer, I have always used this brush by Real Techniques. It's the multitask brush. I love it because it's really soft, but not so soft so that the hairs sort of flatten out and get into areas that you don't want bronzer on, if you know what I mean. It's just really soft, easy application. I just think the circumference of this brush is perfect for me because it's great to contour as well. It's just what I've always used. I really, really love this brush. I couldn't do without it. I couldn't do without this brush. How else would I apply my bronzer? It's easy to carve out where you want the bronzer, across the nose, around the forehead, jawline, I don't know. It's cute, the bright color, that really has nothing to do with it. It's just a great brush. Okay, so now for blush. When it comes to powder blush, I love this brush here. This is by ECCO Tools and it's called the Angled Powder Brush. This is such a great brush for blush. It just sits right in the pocket of your cheekbones. It's got this slightly tapered shape to it, so it sits perfectly in there, and I just dab it on the apples of my cheeks and bring it up. It deposits the product just beautifully, diffuses it a little bit. It doesn't get too crazy. I don't know, I just love it. I think, again, it's the perfect circumference. It's nice and soft. The hairs don't flop about and get everywhere. It's just a good blush brush. You know what I mean? So when I want to use a cream blush, I like using this one here, and this is the Small Stipple brush by e.l.f. It's great. It picks up the product nicely with this duo fiber brush head. You just go in the apples of the cheeks. It disperses the product beautifully. It just sinks into the cheeks because you're almost stabbing it in there, and it just gives a beautiful finish. I don't know, I like it. It's just a really great brush for a more concentrated area, if you know what I mean. Cream products can be tricky, and you know, a lot of us are afraid of using them because of placement and application, but I think with this brush it makes it very easy because you can just sort of stipple it in like that, and then you can bring it up higher if you like. But it's just a really good one for cream blush. Now for my highlight, I use the ECCO Tools Highlighting Fan Brush. I bought this on the recommendation of Katie Jane Hughes. So I saw this in TK Maxx in a pack of some other brushes and just bought it for this brush alone, but turns out the other brushes were great too. This is a great highlighter brush. It picks up the product beautifully. It places the product beautifully on the highest point of the cheek, down the nose, just a little bit on the forehead, right on top of the Cupid's bow. It's just the perfect highlighting brush. It really is. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have this brush. How would I apply my powder highlight? I don't know, because before that I was just using this little brush here. I think I still have it. this little brush here. It is called the e.l.f. powder brush, and I was using that for my highlight, and I think it was just getting in places that it shouldn't get and was showing up too much texture on my face. Whereas this just hits the mark every time. You can get very precise with it. I just think it's genius. Thank you, Katie Jane Hughes. Now this weird looking brush, I got it from Kmart. I think it was by BYS, I'm not sure. There is no name on it, but it was like $3. It was absolutely cheap as chips. But I love it not only to contour, but I love it to wipe away my flaky bits of mascara, clears away any fallout, and it's just great. But then also to contour, when I dab it into my powder contour and just go right underneath my cheek, a straight line, and I sort of stipple it up and down and then blend it out with a Kabuki brush. It's just a really great brush. It's a weird looking little brush, but such a cool brush because it's so multi-purpose for me, and I would be lost without it. This is my travel size e.l.f. Kabuki brush. This is just great because it's so compact and great to travel with. But as I mentioned, it's great for my contour to just blend out that harsh line. But it's just a great blending brush altogether. So after you've highlighted and blushed and bronzed, I like to just sort of go over my whole face and make sure everything's blended, that there are no harsh lines, and I love this little brush. So those are my face brushes. Now I have some eye brushes I have to talk about. When I want to pack on eyeshadow onto my eyelid, I go in with this brush here. This is the ECCO Tools eye shading brush. The hairs are quite dense, so it picks up a lot of product, and then when you go in onto the eyelid and press down on the lid, the color just sort of swipes on very easily because the hairs are not fluffy and don't move the product around. They just sort of place the product down thickly, if you know what I mean. So you get a more opaque kind of finish when you want to pack on that color. So this is great for when you want to pack on color onto the lid. That's what I use. Now for my eye crease, when I go into my crease with my bronzer or a taupey shade, whether I'm wearing just a shade in my crease to define the eye or whether I'm doing a full eye makeup, I always use these brushes. Actually, they're both the same. I've just got two of the same brush. They are by Real Techniques and they are the base shadow brushes. So they're nice and tapered and soft and fluffy and very easy to buff out any shade into the crease very naturally. I like to have two on hand, one to place the pigment into the crease and the other to blend it out. So these are just great brushes. I love them. I really do. These are basically what I wear every day. Most days I just put something in my crease and I'm done, just for definition. These are really, really great. I love them. They're so easy to work with. They're probably not even meant for the crease, but that's what I use them for. These two brushes are also by Real Techniques, and you're going to laugh when I tell you what they're called. They're called the Deluxe Crease Brushes. Yes, you heard me right. So these are the brushes that you should actually use for your crease, but I don't. I find them a bit too chubby and a little bit dense. The other ones are more fluffy and easier to work with. I like to use these to blend. So if I've used 2 or 3 shades on my eyes, I love to use these to blend out the shades. That's basically what I use these for, but I don't reach for them that often because it's not often that I do full eye looks, if you know what I mean. That's why they're pretty clean. They're another staple in my collection. This is the MAC 208S. It is an angled brow brush, but I use this brush not only for my brows, but I love to use it for a cat eye or a smoked out eyeliner. I just love doing a winged eye with this brush. It just is such a great brush. It doesn't flop around. It creates a beautiful defined line because the brush head is so sturdy, and yeah, the hairs just don't flop around. That's just how I can explain it. It's just a very good brush. It's quite expensive, matte brushes are, and it's not often that I do a winged eye, but when I do, I need all the help I can get, and this is just the brush that saves me. And finally, the last brush I want to show you guys is my ECCO Tools concealer brush, but I don't use this brush for concealer at all. I use this for either my inner highlight, it's a pencil brush, so I use it for my inner highlight, or when I'm applying a matte liquid lip, I use this brush to go in on my lip. That's what I like to use it for, but it's great for inner highlight, and it's also great for the lips, as I mentioned. Oh, I almost forgot. This brush that I mentioned earlier, the crease brush that I actually use to blend, this is the brush that I use for concealer if I'm not using my fingers, which I mostly do. But sometimes I do opt for a brush purely for the reason of not getting my hands dirty. Then this is the brush that I use for my concealer as well. It's fantastic for concealer, so that one, I forgot to mention that. So although I do have other brushes, those are the brushes in my arsenal that I reach for on a daily basis, whether I'm wearing, you know, a full makeup look or a no makeup look. You know, they're the brushes that I reach for all the time, and I love them. I don't really believe that just because a brush was given a certain purpose or a title by the manufacturer that we have to use it in that way. Everyone has a different way of applying makeup, so just do what works for you and get outside that box a little bit, and don't be afraid to try things out. I hope I've made your decision-making process a little bit easier when it comes to purchasing brushes. Maybe you're after a new brush of some kind or thinking of replacing some old ones. Make sure you check the description box for the links to the makeup brushes. I'll list them all down there for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I guess I'll see you in my next one. Till then, take care.